On today's show, dinosaurs rule the box office. Spider-Man is going to get some help from a pal. And speaking of Spider-Man, he was kind enough to give us our headline for the show today. Movie Talk starts right now.
Can't they get better, like, HD cameras for him when he's doing stuff? Like, I mean, it's Tom Holland.
When Tom Holland's revealing deep, dark secrets of the MCU, can't we put him in a higher depth? I think that's probably the point, is that he may not be supposed to say this stuff, but we are supposed to be here right now, 9 a.m. PST. That is Perri Nemiroff. That is John Stephen Rocha. I am merely Mark Ellis. Whole lot of fun news to get to today. Hope everybody had a great weekend, and we kick off with those MCU titles. They're so pesky. We want to know what the name of them is as soon as the last movie comes out. For Infinity War, we're not sure yet, but we do know the name, we think, of the new Spider-Man film, the sequel to Homecoming. That would be Spider-Man Far From Home. That is, if Tom Holland's Instagram is to be believed, where he mentioned that. And Perri Nemiroff, I mentioned, in joking fashion that he gave us our headline today, but if the title is indeed Spider-Man Far From Home, I'm going to ask you to read into that a little bit, even not having seen Infinity War 4, which we still don't know the title to.
Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. I like saying it. It sounds like a good title to me. With what it actually means, obviously, Feige's already said that the character is going elsewhere. It's not just going to be set in New York, so it's obviously a direct connection to that. But this movie is coming after Avengers 4. We saw what happened to Spider-Man in Avengers Infinity War. I feel like it's going to have a meaning that is more direct, like, oh, Peter Parker is going out on a school trip or whatever it turns out to be. But then it's also maybe a reflection of his mentality after some space travel there and whatever he goes through in Avengers 4. So I kind of like that it will likely have double weight to it.
Yeah, I mean, space travel and then turning into Auric bait at the end of the movie. I mean, look, Rocha, let's talk about this, because I told you the title this morning, and you seemed like you were a little lukewarm, whereas Perri was very excited about Far From Home.
Yeah, I was a little like, okay, I get it. It's a little on the nose.
Is that a Jeff Daniels movie from like the 90s? Isn't that like a family movie?
Fly away home? Yeah, Fly Away Home.
Yeah. All right, close enough.
I mean, when Cody announced this, I was a little unsettled by it all. Like, I mean, look, he's even wearing, if he could come on camera, he's even wearing what Tom Holland wore in this video. It's insane. If you put him up against the concrete wall right there, he could simulate the entire reveal. But here's the deal. I think when Perri was explaining it just now, it kind of turned my mind a little bit about it, because, there could be double meaning here, or even triple meaning here. Because, remember, he's out of high school, and he's having these experiences, not just going to space, because obviously going to London or Europe can't compare to going to space, but mentally far from home as well, because of the comfort of Aunt May, the comfort of that city of New York, or his borough, what he knows. He flew all the way out to this planet, had this battle with all these things, and then he, what happened to him in Infinity War. Then you have him coming back. What's that going to be like? And who's going to survive? If Iron Man dies, he's not only far from home physically, and like you said, mentally, he's also far from home emotionally. This idea of growing up, this idea of becoming an adult, losing in essence, your father figure in your life after, because I don't know how much of that Uncle Ben stuff they're going to throw in there at all in this version of Spider-Man. This is an interesting title in that way. But initially I was like, it's a little on the nose. I get it. Far from home. It's cute. But I wanted something a little more groundbreaking, but
is every Spider-Man title going to have home in it? It's because Homecoming obviously referenced the high school Far From Home. It's the first time you leave home after high school, ostensibly. So what does that entail with that adventure?
I can't predict a third title with home in it, so I'm going to stop there.
Homeland.
But it could also not just be a personal thing where Peter Parker is growing up and he's away from home, away from all the things he once knew so well or whatever. But after the events of Infinity War and Avengers 4, it could also be just that mentality of him originally wanting to stay in New York and be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and be loyal to his hometown. Maybe, things are starting to change and he's starting to see the value and the need for Spider-Man to step up and be a global hero.
I think he's going to be the leader of the new Avengers that come out of this whole thing. I've been saying that since the beginning. Just the way they've been setting him up, it just makes sense. And people love Spider-Man as a character, so I think it's certainly possible. Captain Marvel is going to be the face of the MCU. That's what Kevin Feige said. But I think Spider-Man is going to lead the new Avengers, whoever's left over after this whole thing happens in Avengers.
I don't see Spider-Man as the leader of the Avengers in this iteration. Okay. I see him obviously as a huge player because his movies do so well, and we love watching him on screen. But I don't see him being the one that's like drawing up the plays in the sand and telling everybody what to do. That seems like more of a job for somebody like a Captain Marvel, if Captain America, Iron Man, if they're no longer around. But you reading into this a little bit, do we think that this does hearken to what you said earlier, that maybe Iron Man is not going to be around, and that this is a little bit further evidence of that?
Yeah, I got a feeling he's not going to be around for one way, in one way or another. Whether he's going to actually pass away or he's going to surrender the mantle because he doesn't want to do it anymore, that's certainly possible. And then maybe be just a mentor or something, or he dies. Either way, I think Iron Man is going to leave his life, his influence. And I will push back a little bit. I think he is being set up. Like Captain Marvel is a space hero. She's not going to be Earth-based fully all the time. So I think he's going to have to be part of that, who leads them around. It can't be Black Panther's got to run a whole kingdom. So I just think that by default, it's kind of moving the pieces around. It seems like he could be the de facto leader of the new Avengers.
Perri, you think Spider-Man is going to be the de facto leader of the new Avengers, or do you think that T'Challa can run a kingdom and then also help out with this little superhero thing?
I would probably pick T'Challa over Spider-Man in this scenario. I just don't think that they're setting him up to be the leader. Whereas, if Feige has said anything about Captain Marvel being ultimately the face, the leader, or whatever, that makes a lot more sense to me from a story perspective. But before I'm willing to even say that's going to be the case, let's see how good that movie is and how the general public responds to her character, because I have a feeling that might dictate a couple of decisions down the line. But I got a lot of faith in that movie, so I'm kind of rooting for that to be the path that they take right now.
Well, the Captain Marvel movie, we should expect to see teasers for it maybe as early as Comic-Con, but the MCU said they're not going to be doing anything at Comic-Con, so if it's not at Comic-Con, it could be soon thereafter, because you can start to get teased for Captain Marvel by the end of the year. And according to Kevin Feige, he said that that's when we would probably hear the name of Avengers 4. They don't want to give it away too early, obviously, and he did mention that the title would come after the first round of Captain Marvel teasers. So that's something obviously for us to keep our eye on. Do you think we'll see a Captain Marvel tease? I mean, the movie comes out in March, so if we're not going to see it at Comic-Con, when would the next logical place to see a Captain Marvel promo?
So I'm thinking, I mean, definitely fall. I'm pretty sure that was even said somewhere that it was likely. But one of the things that the Collider.com article points out is that we got our very first Avengers Infinity War trailer in November. So let's say they take the same exact path with this one, and we get an Avengers 4 title announcement and trailer maybe in November. I would imagine that would probably mean a month or two before is when we're going to start to see the Captain Marvel campaign start up, because the movie hits theaters 2 months before Avengers 4. So it makes a lot of sense.
That's crazy timing, isn't it? Like to have because February was enough of a distance for Black Panther and Infinity War, February and when it came out. And so to me, in April, this is an interesting decision, right? Because it's like, it's still 2 months, 2.5 months, but I just wonder about it financially, and if Captain Marvel is still going strong, do you want to throw another Marvel movie in there, how that's going to all play out in itself? But I think Perry's right. I think we're going to get it in the fall, both things in the fall. But I wonder if they're going to push the trailer for Infinity War until the new year, so to let the Captain Marvel stuff build up and be its own unique thing. So that's certainly possible. I don't know. Two films coming out at the same time just seems like it's an interesting
I actually think it's a smarter move, because look at Black Panther's box office run. Could you imagine if it was in even more theaters around the time that Infinity War came out? I feel like it would have gotten even more of a boost. I think they played that really, really well.
Do you think they're just going to follow the blueprints?
I think they're doing a similar thing with this one. Also, I think that the stories between Captain Marvel and Avengers 4 is going to be more heavily linked than, let's say, Black Panther and Infinity War were, even though Wakanda played a very important part. But we're talking about a certain someone that was teased at Avengers Infinity War. That's going to be it's going to have a major influence on whatever we see happen in Avengers 4.
Well, if she plays into Avengers 4, what part of the trailer is going to focus on her at all? And what part of the Captain Marvel trailer? Those are the things that I think I worry about, because we knew Black Panther was going to be in Infinity War and because of what had happened in Civil War. But do we know what Marvel's... This is a different situation because Captain Marvel has never been introduced. So we're going to see her for the first time in her own trailer, and then what part is she going to play in Avengers 4? So does that make the movie almost a de facto... It's just almost like a lame duck to a degree.
It's a huge creative challenge.
Yeah.
But if they find a clever way to do it, could you imagine if we got something for marketing campaigns for both movies that one felt like a pure origin story, like meet this super cool new character you're going to get to spend a lot of time with, and then something about the Avengers 4 promos made it feel like maybe something was missing, that maybe it doesn't outright say, oh, connect the dots here, but it started to make you naturally think that. That sounds like a really exciting marketing opportunity.
I think the box office for the first Infinity War proves that, okay, look, we can advertise this movie. Hell, we can push the release date up a week, and we're going to be just fine. So I think they're going to focus heavily on Captain Marvel. You might see a teaser somewhere for Infinity War at some point, or maybe you don't see anything. Maybe this is the purpose of the marketing strategy for, maybe they give us a title by the end of the year, and that's all they give us. And then when you go see Captain Marvel, you see a teaser, and this could be one of those things that we speculate every so often. Oh, what if they ran this at the end of the movie? What if they ran, instead of a second post-credit scene, what if it is just an Infinity War trailer? Because I think that they're smart enough with the MCU to realize that you need to market Captain Marvel as having her own movie in the same way that you marketed Black Panther, not as, hey, make sure you see this before Infinity War. Go see Black Panther because it's Black Panther. I think the marketing strategy is going to put a heavy push on see Captain Marvel because it's Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
All right, well, before we move on to the box office, I want to remind you guys that this episode of Collider Movie Talk is brought to you by Rode Microphones. They have a cool contest going on right now through July 31st called My Rode Reel. Check out myrodereel.com for all the info. Basically, you make a short film, then you also make a behind-the-scenes film that showcases you using some sort of Rode product, and you could win $1 million, or you could win part of the $1 million prize pack. $1 million up for grabs, kids, so go ahead and grab some Rode equipment and start making something right now. Make it any genre you want. Horror, comedy, action, new release, whatever you want to make your movie right now, and then a behind-the-scenes thing, and enter at myrodereel.com. You can enter through July 31st. Well, mention the box office, and I'm going to go right to the source on this one because Perri Nemiroff, she wasn't a huge fan of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but she does love her Jurassic Park. She reads all the books. She digests all the source material. The movie came out and actually did slightly better than analyst expectations, $150 million domestically, which is still over $50 million shy of what Jurassic World did. Is that more of a commentary on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom not living up to expectations as a movie, or is this just because the first Jurassic World came out and was such an anomaly that you could not possibly expect to repeat that kind of business?
I think this number exceeded expectations. When I made my prediction, I wound up saying 145, and I thought that was going to be on the higher end of it, and it wound up being pretty close and even just a tiny bit too low. But when you think about it, Jurassic World had such a large space of time between that movie and the last time we had seen this really exciting franchise. So that no doubt fueled its opening to a degree. But also when Jurassic World opened back in 2015, it had no competition that opening weekend. It was one of those cases where the stars just aligned. But it wasn't just about the fact that it had no competition. That movie, when you look at its box office run, is impressively strong for a long, long time. I don't think it dropped more than 50% for, I think the stat is something like 8 or 9 weekends. It had long, long legs. So hopefully that's the case with Fallen Kingdom too. But in looking at the opening weekend, I think this exceeds expectations. It's in good shape. It was up against the second week of Incredibles 2, which again made a whole lot of money. So I would not be surprised if the folks at Universal are pretty pleased with themselves right now.
John Rocha, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. You weren't the biggest fan of it. Are you? Do you? What does $150 million mean to you? Does that mean that audiences are just gobbling up anything that has huge dinosaurs in it? That maybe they sacrificed the desire to see a well-told story in favor of just huge, giant animals that are extinct?
Yeah, this is a good question you asked, Mark Ellis, because I disagree with just about everything Perri said, except that it exceeded expectations. This is not a really exciting franchise at all, in my opinion, and I doubt it'll have legs to keep going. But that being said, what it has done is pretty incredible. $700 million already worldwide. It opened in 17 new countries this week, and it was #1 in 16 of them. That's it's been going this trend with this film. So look, I'm on the other side of the debate now. All these people with the Transformer stuff, blah, 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 blah. This thing's making money, so I can do what some of you can't do. I can concede the fact that there are a lot of people who love the dinosaurs, love the Jurassic Park franchise, and no matter how loony or crazy or the twists and turns that happened in this movie that made no sense, they still want to go and see this thing and lose their minds. But what does this mean? You asked this question. I think it does mean we're heading towards more and more of these type of films. The explosions, the blow, the big CGI, all that kind of stuff. It's going to start happening now. That's why Solo is such an anomaly in this situation. The fact that people couldn't overcome that the issues with Last Jedi to go see this anyway, they didn't in the numbers that they did Last Jedi in the other films, and even Rogue One. So even more so, it solidifies it even more so, the moves that need to happen on the Disney side of things. But that being said, look, 700 million, what are you going to say? It's pretty incredible. Keep going, I guess. Keep making them and do whatever. Who cares if the plots make no sense and the film isn't that good? Just keep making them. People are going to go see them. So what can we do? And to be on the other side of the debate with Perri, Miss art versus commerce, to all of a sudden be okay with a franchise. You know that these films are not that good and they're making all this money. It's just an interesting situation.
I don't necessarily know if my issues with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom are an art versus commerce
if
conversation.
They're not good movies and they keep making money, they should still keep going.
Well,
right?
I stand by my review. I don't think it was just a not good movie destined to make money. I actually think the first half of it was pretty effective, and I love certain elements of the second half, but there's no doubt in my mind that, the reason the second half didn't work for me is because the story just goes absolutely crazy. But I think there's a lot of good in that too, where it makes it to me as a fan of the franchise a lot more than just what we typically look at as a cash grab.
I felt that way when I saw Anthony Hopkins do his long monologue last night, but nobody see it. But
you might be in the minority, but hold true to what you believe in, Rocha.
So you too.
I'll say, look, I know all movies are subjective. I like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and I know that your taste in cinema is subjective, and nothing is potentially more subjective than comedy. But I thought that when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom took stabs at humor, I think they were successful. And I think when the Transformers movies do it, I think they just fall so far flat and bad and hokey and dad jokey. It just doesn't work, and it takes you out of the movie. Whereas I think the sense of humor with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and the Jurassic World movies in general, it's a much more natural flow.
I didn't feel that way at all. I didn't laugh once through this whole movie. But I agree with Perri. The first 45 minutes...
Maybe it's because they're not peppering in stupid jokes every 5 minutes.
No, because... Please. No one appreciates an Adam Sandler movie more than I do. No, the first 45 minutes of Jurassic World are damn enjoyable. And I was thinking, why was this getting middling reviews and blah, blah, blah? And then, like Perri said, falls right off the cliff, and you're just like, what is happening? And then that twist near the end, you're like, okay, I literally said out loud to Cody, who was sitting next to me, that's it, I'm done. That's it. I almost walked out of the theater, but I didn't want to disrespect it.
Don't be that guy in the theater. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to be that kind of a spectacle thing. But, I just, I don't know what to tell you. I enjoy the stupidity of those films for what they are, but these are not, masterpieces of cinema in these Jurassic World. And the basic thing of just enjoying an action adventure film, it just doesn't speak to me, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. So that's what I would say. Just because it doesn't speak to me doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. It's making money, so a lot of people like these dinosaurs. And I like the new Raptor. I did like the new Raptor. That was kick-ass. But I can't review it too hard, can I? I can't review it and spoil anything, can I?
We're going with this
because Bryce Dallas Howard drove me... what are we doing? Give her something to do. That's frustrating as hell.
Okay, let's channel all this frustration and let's channel it into the next question, which is, what is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's box office going to be from here? Is it going to be? Is it going to drop more than 50% this weekend? Because a lot of times when you see a movie comes out and it's this big spectacle like a Jurassic Park movie or DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Transformers, whatever it is, and critically it doesn't do that well, and maybe doesn't crush with audiences like the previous one did, you're not going to see the 50% or less drop. You're going to see a 60% or more drop. Do you guys see that happening with Fallen Kingdom?
I think I'm hovering right around the 50% mark right now in my mind, but I do think the fact that there's no big wide release until really 4th of July with that week with not necessarily The Purge being a big factor in how Jurassic World winds up doing, but Ant-Man and the Wasp definitely will affect it. So I don't know. I'm thinking it might be right around 50 this weekend.
Yeah, I think I agree with Perri because, look, Incredibles 2 took such a hit with Jurassic World coming out, and I didn't anticipate it getting more than a 50% hit, and it did. And so that's unfortunate for that
Still
film.
did $80 million.
It did. It was a great second weekend, highest second weekend for any animated film. It's already in the top 10 of animated films ever in terms of gross. So that's great for that film. But I think it would have not dipped below 50% if Jurassic World wasn't taking those families into that theater. So I'd be surprised with the limited competition this week if it dipped below 50%. I think there's enough word of mouth of people who like you who enjoyed it and to a degree enjoyed it that it'll keep it above the 50% drop. I do, because people want to go and enjoy themselves, and there's not much else to choose from. I doubt Sicario or The Purge, first Purge, will take a big hit out of it or take a chunk out of its box office.
I have a feeling it's doing less than $75 million at the box office this weekend. Just my personal Spidey sense. That's the next thing. But we're not getting there quite yet. I also want to mention that 2 movies crossed the $100 million mark domestically. That'd be Ocean's 8, crossed it with an $11 million gross this weekend. And then you also had Tag, which Tag should have been $100. It should have been a $100 million movie.
You're crazy.
I didn't see the movie.
I saw
but
it.
I've heard people didn't hate it. And if you can advertise a movie and you have a trailer that's humorous and it has that easy of a premise to glom onto, why is that movie not doing better? Why didn't they advertise that movie more? Nobody knew it was coming out.
Look at the cast. That cast isn't going to get $100 million into the seats. Ed Helms is not getting $100 million people. $100 million.
He was with a bunch of other people who weren't A-listers at the time when The Hangover came out.
Buress, none of those people. Jeremy Renner, none of those people are getting an Isla Fisher. They're all doing great work in the film. It's fun. The film is fun. It's not great, but it's fun. But that's not the people that are going to get you $100 million. That cast is not, and there's nothing against the cast. It's just not the cast that's going to get you $100 million.
I also can't really think of very many studio comedies, especially ones that are rated at R, opening up with more than $100 million anyway.
Maybe the best comedy to see is live stand-up then. When Perri opens for me in San Diego, no longer John Rocha. Because of an issue, because of a discrepancy we had over the weekend. Wrinkle in Time passed $100 million. It's already available on Blu-ray, but it also was playing in theaters at certain drive-ins with Incredibles 2, and that put it over the $100 million mark, which marks the first time a film was directed by an African-American female director going over $100 million. So congratulations to Ava DuVernay and A Wrinkle in Time. We move on to the next story that I just teased, and that would be we could have another film in the Spidey universe. But before we get to the Spidey universe, let's just think about the Venom universe, the Sony universe, and that would be, of course, Silk. Deadline is reporting that Sony and Amy Pascal are teaming up to produce Silk, which is a story based on a Korean-American superhero named Cindy Moon. She's a female student in Peter Parker's class who also gets bit by a radioactive spider. And before you call the Orkin man, get this. The spider that bites her gives her radioactive powers that even supersede some of what Spider-Man can do. The character of Cindy Moon was actually briefly in Spider-Man Homecoming, which begs the question, John Rocha.
Yeah.
Does the announcement of Silk being a movie that is going into production, we don't have a release date or a director or anything like that just yet, but if they're working on Silk, does that further solidify the bonds between this Sony universe that already has Venom, had Silver and Black that just got put on hold, with the current iteration of Tom Holland as Spider-Man in the MCU?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we hear Tom Holland is going to appear in Venom. That is a confirmation for me that it's all going to be in the same universe. I think absolutely Silk. And of course, because Amy Pascal is involved as well, I think is all going to wrap into itself. Silk is an interesting character because the same spider that bit Spider-Man in this particular version also bit Cindy Moon, but she was taken by this businessman Ezekiel and hid away for 6 years, and she lost track of her family. Spider-Man's the one who breaks her out. This is a relatively new character. It was introduced in 2014. It's not an old school character for a long time. So this was retroactively fitted into the Spider-Man universe, this idea of her, and so she has the powers. Yeah, she's faster than Spider-Man. She has an idiotic memory, and she has less superhuman strength than Spider-Man, but she's also a bit smarter and quicker in her approach to things. So she's an interesting character, but there's a lot of her backstory too that's involved, because most of her backstory is involved in trying to find her parents who've moved on for some reason, and her brother who gets involved with the Goblin Gang. So there's so much about her that could play into this movie that could be very interesting that doesn't even have to touch on Spider-Man, because Spider-Man doesn't even train her. Ezekiel does, to use her powers and do what she needs to do. So she does her own thing. It'll be interesting, and I love the fact that a Korean-American superhero is here. Now, are they going to use the same actress? I wonder, because they put her in Infinity War, and they have her in Homecoming. So it would stand to reason, and this young lady is a young actress, so it would stand to reason that you would keep her in the cast and do this because you have her already cast. So I would like to see it continue on.
Tiffany Espenson is the actress's name who played Cindy Moon in Spider-Man Homecoming. We've got confirmation of Tom Holland being in Venom, or is this just you having a dream?
There's a lot of reported rumors.
Yeah, we've heard rumors that he's around. Yeah, so
usually when there's smoke, there's fire.
Perri, do you agree with Rocha that this is just a further confirmation that we are going to have all these universes tie in? Tom Hardy's Venom is going to be somewhat related to the MCU.
No, they haven't even gotten their Spider-Man film franchise off the ground. There's no guarantees whatsoever. Maybe if it comes time where the Sony Spider-Man films have proven themselves and are doing very well, Marvel would never, ever risk tying themselves so heavily to something that another studio has creative control over. Spider-Man Homecoming is a different story because of the deal that they arranged, but the Marvel people have nothing to do with Venom and all that. And with how powerful that brand is, it would be stupid for them to run the risk. So I don't think this story or the fact that she was in Homecoming and Infinity War hints that, oh, they're all tied together and it's all in the same world. Maybe that will come to light eventually. Not yet. I do hope they keep her in that role, though. I don't know. I just kind of like that narrative for a young up-and-coming actor that I don't really know very well. She scores this little seemingly nothing role in Spider-Man Homecoming and then all of a sudden ends up with her own feature film. But the reports on this, it's in early development. So as we saw with Silver and Black, maybe they will develop it. They'll hit roadblocks. Who knows? But I'm happy to hear that they're dedicated to doing different stories like this, because a character like Silk, with all the other ones that we've heard are in development, it sounds like that's kind of the piece I need in their franchise right now.
And I wonder if she'll appear. There's rumors about her possibly appearing in Into the Spider-Verse as a way of introducing her character to the populace and putting her in canon under that world. She's already in canon in the MCU, so she can appear. That is possible. If they keep the same actress, she is canon in the MCU. So she could be Silk in the MCU and in Sony. That's certainly possible.
Okay, Perri mentioned their dedication to creating this universe that isn't just a standalone Venom movie, but also you have other characters in there. But how dedicated are they? Is that going to be predicated upon what Venom does at the box office? Like if Venom opens poorly, do we still get Silk?
I agree with Perri that if Venom is not done well, and then Marvel's gonna be like, yeah, we're good. We're gonna be over here doing our thing. So I think how Venom does is a really big indicator of how this whole thing goes down. I just worry because I think the trailer's been underwhelming and people were making fun of the Venom's tongue and they weren't all that 100% happy. So just because Venom doesn't do well, you could still make a good Silk movie.
I think Silk. I think Silk is going to be pretty Teflon, to borrow another substance. I think Silk is going to be pretty Teflon to Venom because it is so easily palatable with the MCU already. I mean, she's in Peter Parker's class. We see her in Spider-Man Homecoming. So if that's the vein you can take with the movie, Perri, then I think it doesn't have to worry about Venom.
They're not going to give up with one failure. This is a huge thing for Sony to put them on maybe not on the same level as, let's say, a Disney with a Marvel, but if you have a Marvel property at your studio right now, you gotta put it to use. So maybe Venom doesn't explode at the box office like some of the Marvel movies we've seen this year, but I think no matter how it does, we're gonna end up seeing at the very least one more Spider-Man verse Spider-Man, not connected to Spider-Man, whatever the heck we're calling these Sony movies now. There's so many Marvel franchises out there. We're gonna see one more Spider-Man related movie from Sony, no matter how Venom does.
If you want to get even more confused,
it's just like with the DCE, can we just decide on easy to say names for all of these things?
That's part of our job, is to learn all these things.
So we can call it the Sonyverse. We can call it the Spider-Verse. But even that gets confused because Amy Pascal is currently producing The Girl in the Spider's Web, starring Claire Foy, which has nothing to do with anything.
When I said Spider-Verse, my mind went to Into the Spider-Verse, and who knows if one is related to the other story-wise.
I do like the idea of Silk appearing in that, though, if it does happen, a little more than Spider-Gwen. Now, Spider-Gwen is retroactively fitted to kind of mirror what Spider-Man. This is, to me, something different and interesting, and because she's Korean-American, I think it's important.
All right, well, let's try to move away from superheroes for this next story, where Suicide Squad director David Ayer, according to Deadline, has a new movie that he's going to be doing before he does Bright 2 for Netflix, and that would be called The Tax Collector. It's described as an indie crime drama thriller starring everybody's favorite paper bag-headed actor Shia LaBeouf and Bobby Soto. So LaBeouf was in Ayer's movie Fury and was very good in that movie. I thought Fury had a lot to say, and this movie is described as, while plot details being kept under wraps, they're saying that it's like Ayer going back to more of his roots with something like Training Day or End of Watch. So we don't know much about the movie other than the title, who stars in it. David Ayer is a director to keep around, especially when he's able to do what he wants to do. He's writing and directing this movie. Perri, you pretty excited about The Tax Collector? Do you need to know more?
It's just weird to say. Are you excited about The Tax Collector?
Yeah, usually we're not.
I mean, really, if I wasn't already familiar with what that could be combined with an action movie through The Accountant, I would probably be having a better laugh out of this title right now.
I love The Tax Collector. I love The Accountant. It's like
it's a brand new cinematic universe, financial nightmares all in one. I'm fine. I'm fine with this. I mean, I'm a fan of some of David Ayer's films, probably Training Day and End of Watch more so than some of his other stuff, although I did really love Fury. But, you know, if this is going back to a genre and a style of filmmaking that works really well for him, I'm gonna root for it. So I'm just curious to hear some of these plot details that are being kept under wraps, because I don't really know what to picture right now.
Yeah, Rocha, I mean, you know, Suicide Squad comes out and David Ayer seemed to play ball with it, although I'm not sure that was the movie that he had intended on making to a T. But then we get Bright, and then he was attached to be doing the Scarface remake or reboot, and then I think that he had some studio friction there too. And I like this play for David Ayer because I was never a huge fan of remaking Scarface or rebooting it somewhere else and still calling it Scarface. Just get that name brand recognition. Just seems like you're digging yourself an unnecessary hole. Whereas here, David Ayer can do whatever he wants with the cast. It's an indie crime thriller. This is what he does best.
I agree with you. This is what he does best. End of Watch is one of these unrecognized classic films that explores this genre in such an interesting way. You know, he's had so much experience. He wrote The Fast and the Furious. He's had so many into the Training Day, all these interesting projects he's worked on and done. When he writes and directs his own stuff, it's a lot more interesting. Fury, I agree with you, Mark. I trumpet Fury as one of the best World War II films I've ever seen in a way that we've never seen it before, you know, and it really brought a lot of drama out in it. Now, the Bright was written by someone else, so maybe Ayer just did his best with that script and what he could do. Maybe he's going to bring a little more, a little better storylines, a little better cohesiveness to the film when he does the sequel, and I look forward to that. He's off the Harley Quinn thing, it seems like now, officially, like he's just done with that thing, so they've moved him off that, and so he's got to fill the time in. This idea, I like the idea of The Tax Collector. I'm waiting for the financial manager and the stockbroker and everything that's coming through here, the financial planning, like all the 401k specialists, all this is, but I would love it if it's connected to that would be great. If it's the part of the accountant universe, you'd have the tax collector. I'd be all for creating a financial verse. Like I'd be all for it.
I am in on the finance verse. Finance verse. We could get the Prudential Whale could take on the Hartford Buck, and they could have a little. Now as long as we get animals fighting, neither one's going to play an away game. But yeah, that's interesting to me. All right, well, I might need y'all's help on this next story. Before we get to the It casting, I want to remind you guys at the end of this show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video and use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. Movie It came out last year. Remember it? It was a little indie horror film that came and went. Oh, and it crushed at the box office, and they're making a sequel that is set for release next year, September 6, 2019. Deadline is reporting that Xavier Dolan and Will Beinbrink have been cast in the roles of Adrian Mellon and Tom Rogan, respectively. So, John Rocha, I know you and Perri are both fans of the novelization. What can you tell me about these characters as somebody who does not know how to read?
Well, Adrian Mellon is an interesting situation with his relationship. You know, it was a homosexual relationship with Don Haggerty, and they go to in the book they go to the Dairy Fair, and Adrian is more. He's very proud of his homosexuality. He's not ashamed. He doesn't hide it, whereas Don hides his. And you know, they get hassled at the fair. The cops step in, kind of diffuse the situation. But later on, when they're walking home, these three homophobic teenagers confront them on a bridge, beat up Adrian, stab him, I think, and then throw him over the bridge, which prompts the reemergence of Pennywise because he's drawn to where there's heightened fear, and apparently takes him by his armpit and drags him under, from what I can remember. But no one tells the 15-year-old kid that saw it happen, and Don never tell the cops or the courts what happened to him, or they try to tell it, but they don't quite, get believed, or it goes anywhere. So that's the end of that story, but it's probably an impetus to start this film, this chapter 2. The other character is interesting, and I want to get Perri's take on this because do we want to repeat what Stephen King thought was good in the 80s, right? He's already said that some of the stuff he did in that book, now retroactively, he probably wouldn't do again, especially a lot of the homophobia that's in there, the use of that F word, evolve with homophobia that's in there. Well, I hope we don't see that in the film. But this idea of Beverly's husband being an abuser, her repeating because out of that first film, it looks like she's overcome her father, overcome this stuff. She's going to be a stronger person and not fall into this trap. If you have this character, especially someone as powerful as Jessica Chastain, fall into this situation where she's with an physically abusive husband who ignores her and does whatever he wants, I think it would set the film back a little bit.
The strength and power have really nothing to do with that.
Well, of course. I'm just saying the optics of it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it'd actually be a powerful commentary. From what I know with it is that Tom Rogan plays like the abusive husband who kind of mirrors what she went through with her father. Right. Is that an important thing to have in the movie, or do you think, do you agree with Rocha that maybe we can go somewhere else?
No, I would have been shocked if this wasn't part of chapter 2, because it is, as a person over years and years and decades of her life, that is a very important element to who Beverly is, and kind of understanding that character and why she might fall into the same traps. And it is a very interesting commentary when you look at how she was as a kid with her father versus being an adult and having a career and starting a life for herself, with some similarities, but also reasons that she's tied to him that she didn't have with her father, but different reasons, and then how that situation kind of follows her throughout the film. And also, even though they grow up and they do other things, what happened in Derry during their childhood, it affects them all in interesting ways. And, when you see where they wind up as adults, it does bring up some questions. If they hadn't gone through that, would they be in these positions right now? Right. So I'm hoping that is all tied together very well. As for having Adrian Mellon in the mix, well, I guess everybody knows the whole story now.
Well,
he said every detail.
Come on. He asked me what happens.
I guess
did
so.
The first It stick so close to the novel that, or did they take some? Because you always have this thing with Stephen King adaptations where you hear from Stephen King's mouth from other places that, it stayed so faithful to the novel, or it totally went away from what the novel was doing, like with Kubrick and The Shining. So I don't know if there is a right or wrong. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Where does it stand as far as what the first It did with what the novel had done?
I think it's very faithful.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of things that are missing, but we're talking about, I think my audiobook for that one clocked in at about 44 hours. There was no way to have a play-by-play exactly what happened in the book in that first movie. But a lot of those side stories, because one of the things that Stephen King does in almost all of his books is it's not necessarily just about the main narrative. Right. There is so much going on around those main characters, and that is true in the case of It, the novel, where you're not just experiencing the losers, you're getting a whole bunch of Pennywise encounters around them and history on the town of Derry, and that's where this story comes into play. And even though we didn't get really any of those side stories in the first film, we did get them in Easter egg format. If you look around, down to murals being painted on the wall, balloons flying, all that kind of stuff, it hints at all of that Derry history. And in the case of this story in particular, I'm just surprised that we're seeing the role cast, because I think the second you put someone like Xavier Dolan in it, that means this is going to be a prominent scene. And what Rocha brought up before we started shooting makes a whole lot of sense to me, is that maybe this could be the cold open. We know that Pennywise comes back at very particular intervals. Maybe this is something to show what happens while the losers were away.
All right, John Rocha, any last words? Any last other details that you want to reveal?
Yeah, I trust Muschietti here, because he did such a great job with interpreting the first part of that book and making it into a movie that is interesting and new and different. And the changes they made worked. I think we shouldn't expect him to be 100% faithful to the second part of it. So I look forward to see what he does with these two characters and how he makes it work in his own unique vision for this story. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, I think in this situation it's nice to have the same director just because that you know what they were trying to set up based on the novel with their cinematic version of it, and that maybe it does go a little more different, or not radically different, but just there's some changes in it, chapter 2. But either way, I just want to see the scary clown again. Remember him, Pennywise? And his eyes go like this. He's like talking to you, and you're like, hey, it's a normal clown. Just order me popcorn. Then all of a sudden his eye goes like over there, and you're like, wait a minute. What the hell's going on here? Do not talk to clowns in sewers, kids. I cannot stress that enough. Well, we have some new cool announcements here at Collider.com and Collider Video. And the first one is you can pick up some cool Collider t-shirts. Check these out. The link is in this vid's description. So whenever you guys want to, you can look at the, you got a Movie Talk shirt, you got a Hero shirt. I'm going to get that Movie Talk shirt and make it sleeveless, and that's going to be my new box jumping shirt. So you guys can check that out right now. They are limited edition, so grab them right now. There are friends at Bonfire. Like I said, just check out the link in this vid's description. And we have a new podcast that's going to be dropping every Wednesday. This is on the Collider Factory feed, and it is called the Riley Roundtable. Sound familiar?
Oh.
Yes, because our buddy Mark Riley is the host of it. Mark Riley kicked off the Roundtable. They talk everything from the world of movies, but they're also going to get into some other stuff, some stuff that is more Riley-centric. It's a great listen, and I'm particularly intrigued about an upcoming episode because on the Harloff and Ellis show last week, Riley guested for Christian, and we were talking about UFOs. We got talking about this experience that he had with his buddy, and then his buddy has had a lot of UFO experiences, so he's going to be on. His name's Kai. I cannot wait to check out that episode of Riley Roundtable. There's never been a better way to sell a podcast than say, listen to this week's Riley Roundtable, because you're going to hear about aliens. You can also check out the Movie Talk podcast feed. You get Movie Talk every day, and you get Collider Mailbag on the weekends, hosted by Perri Nemiroff. What was the most controversial topic of the past week?
Well, we kept at the Movie Pass AMC subscription service battle there, which, you know, it's always nice to have the chance to sit down and talk about something like that long form, because as you all know, I got feelings about that.
Get time to display all of them. And while you're on the Movie Talk podcast feed, you can also check out Afterthoughts, hosted by Ryan and Jay. This weekend, we're in Las Vegas. We're going to Las Vegas Comic-Con. Amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con. Collider is the exclusive media partner of it, and as such, we have a bunch of fun panels, and we're going to be covering events, celebrity interviews, all that good stuff. So swing by booth 407 anytime. Check out the Collider Heroes panel on Friday, the Future of Collider on Saturday, and the Collider Movie Talk panel on Saturday. I'll be at both of those, and then Sunday morning we have Collider.com. I'll be doing some stand-up at Harrah's Thursday through Saturday as well, so swing on by. And last but certainly not least, an all-new Heroes is going to be up later on today, so check that out. Whew, well, that's enough selling. Let's get to some answering. And this is a good one. I like Matt W. At Crown Royal _007 is celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday, Matt.
Happy birthday.
I'm celebrating my 38th. You're not the only one. It's going to happen for everybody soon. What was the most memorable movie experience that you saw on your birthday? For Matt, it was his dad taking him and his friends to the drive-in, only to be told that Jurassic Park was sold out. And then as they were driving out, somebody found a last-minute spot and then waved them in, so they ended up getting to see Jurassic Park at the drive-in after all, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, literally. Memorable birthday experience for either one of y'all at the cinema?
I have many, because that's my birthday tradition with my family. We every single year when I go home for my birthday, which thankfully this year is actually on Thanksgiving, so I will definitely be with my whole family for my birthday.
Okay.
But every single year we go and we see a movie. I think some of the most memorable recent ones were probably the Hunger Games movies, because I love that franchise, and eventually when they moved release dates, they kept coming out right around my birthday. But if I had to pick the most memorable one, it was probably when I chose to see Anna Karenina for my birthday.
Oh my God.
And everyone hated it, myself included. There's many things to admire about that movie. It was not for me, and not for anybody in my family either.
Oh, it wasn't for me. I remember. I was so hungover going to that screening anyway, and I was like, what in God's name?
They were so mad at me, but it was my birthday, so no one could really be mad at me. So I was all right.
Yeah, so they might have spit in your cake afterwards.
Yeah.
John Rocha, memorable birthday experience. You've had a few birthdays.
Yeah, I've had a few birthdays. Black and white or color? Like, what do you... Sepia tone? Sepia tone? No. The last 10 years, It's been my tradition to go with my friend Shannon McClung. I take the day or the day after or the day before my birthday, and we go and have some beers, get nice and toasted at a brewery, and then we watch the worst movie on that came out that weekend. And
okay. Is this just you and Shannon? Or is this you and Shannon and 80 other of your
No, just me and Shannon. We went to see Jack Reacher Never Go Back last year. And then I can't remember the terrible one that was the year before. But like it's our tradition to go and see a terrible movie every year. So I don't have a distinct one that I personally enjoyed, but I always have a great time doing that on my birthday. It's a fun way to kind of like just it's doing the reverse, where you would go see a great movie. I go see a terrible one just to have a little blast and make fun of it. I think Independence Day Resurgence was one of those. I think. So that was a good time. So there we go. All right.
Remember, Dennis Zen saw Independence Day Resurgence on his 40th birthday. Man, when we walked out of there, we all felt like we were 80 years old. That was a long, tough movie to watch. When I can't remember what birthday it was. I was a kid, and I dragged the family to see Species.
Ooh.
I wanted to see it for many reasons as a boy, coming of age. Natasha Henstridge, it's rated R, it's an alien movie, sci-fi. I wanted to see a lot of things in Species, and I'll never forget going to my dad's office before. We were having a typical Mark Ellis birthday where we ordered Pizza Hut, because hell yeah. They just introduced stuffed crust, and it was still when it's like stuffed crust. Wait, there's cheese in the crust? Holy crap, I can't believe this is in my mouth right now. And then we were going to go to the movies, and through some rate, my dad thought that we were going to see Apollo 13. And so he was geared up all day, man. And I remember telling my dad, no, we're going to see Species. just his sinking feeling of like, I want to see Apollo 13. Felt so bad. Sorry, Pop, but we did take the old man to see Apollo 13 a couple weeks later, and we all had a good time. So all was made up for. All right, let's do one more quick one. John Ashford said, has an actor or actress made you not want to see their work? For him, it's Jodie Foster, the way she hated on the comic book genre and now is doing Why the Last Man is Ironic, and I have no desire to see Hotel Artemis. Well, John, I can tell you this. A lot of actors and actresses have had a lot worse transgressions than Jodie Foster, so she had a couple comments about movies you love. Take it in stride. Hotel Artemis is cool. Allow people to say something, and then they can take it back, or they can be enlightened. As long as they're sober when they said both comments, I think we're okay here. There's other actors and actresses that have obviously done terrible things. Let's maybe stay away from that and just talk about maybe comments or something. Like I brought up Shia LaBeouf earlier, and I made fun of the fact that he did a round of interviews with a paper bag over his head. So he's somebody that I liked Hal Rudnick interviewing him that day, but I don't know that I needed that marketing stunt in my life. But I do appreciate him as an actor. He's a damn good artist when he wants to commit to it.
I think I would probably have an answer that would just connect to anybody who has consistently delivered crappy movies that all feel the same. Like, it breaks my heart that you bring up Adam Sandler earlier, and it's kind of gone into this downward spiral where I still love and adore the original movies, but when you consistently deliver crap, that's when I'm like, well, maybe I won't see your movies anymore.
Yeah, he called the shit poop, Rocha.
So you have a problem with the same plot repeated over and over again in a movie? In a franchise, maybe?
All
right,
what are we doing?
Jurassic World. So what I'm saying, for me, I hesitate to answer this question because I don't want to seem like an a-hole for once. But I agree with Sandler. You'll never catch me in a Kevin James movie. You'll never catch me. You have to kill me to put me in a Kevin James movie. Put my body in there.
Okay, why?
But,
what did Kevin? Who hurt you?
I don't. What he pulled with Aaron Hayes on the CBS sitcom they did is terrible, and I don't like. And then it got canceled anyway, Kevin. So to me, I thought that was a jerk move.
Kevin Joe.
Yeah, Kevin.
Thank you. See you guys later.
I think we went out. We went out. Are we still going?
It's just the monitor, dear.
Okay,
Keep talking.
I never know. Adam makes me paranoid about this kind of stuff.
He likes to see himself when he's talking.
So no,
Rocha literally doesn't talk unless he can see himself talking. A lot of dates that Rocha goes on are just him looking in a mirror the whole time. It's a little off-putting.
Stop it. It just happens to be a mirror around. What do you want from me? No, I will say this though, and I hesitate to say this. I'm not a Julia Roberts fan. I'm not, and I don't like. I've only ever liked one or two films from her, and whenever she's in something, I just don't find it interesting, and it's just personal thing. I think we all have that. Nothing against her. She's accomplished. She's won an Oscar. Nothing against her. For me, I don't run to see a Julia Roberts movie. I've only ever liked, I think, Notting Hill and Brockovich. And I guess Pretty Woman when I saw it, but I've never seen it since. So it just doesn't. She doesn't grab me. That's
All right. Well, Julia Roberts, stop mailing heads to Rocha. He doesn't want them, and one day he can forgive you. Hopefully. That is John Steven Rocha. That is Perri Nemiroff. Thank both of you for joining us here on Collider Movie Talk. Throw it to the wide for the outro. We will see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. PST. We got a couple new trailers to talk about, as well as all the latest movie news. See you guys then. R.I.P. Vinnie Paul. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.